It was the job of the phalanx to punch a hole in the enemy line. Then the companions, the elite Macedonian cavalry, would drive their wedge through it. Philip now deployed his infantry, 30,000 men. 2,000 horsemen under his teenage son Alexander waited for their opening.
Horses and men, gleaming not with gold, not with multicolored clothes, but with iron and bronze.
$60,000 men advanced across the plain. At the height of the battle, Philip signaled his right flank to steadily fall back.
The Greek general cried out, "We've got to keep attacking until we push the enemy back to Macedonia." Philip remarked, "The Greeks don't know how to win."
On the Macedonians' right, the men kept pulling back. Sensing victory, the Greeks surged forward. What looked like retreat was a well-rehearsed trap. As the Greeks charged, their lines split. The Macedonian cavalry, led by Prince Alexander, struck at the gap. The whole Greek line buckled and broke. Vulnerable without their phalanx, they were run down by Philip's horsemen. The Greek army was destroyed. A lion would mark the graves of the Theban sacred band, an elite unit wiped out by Macedonians in a few hours. Not long after the Battle of Chaeronea, King Philip was murdered. At age 20, his son Alexander took up his father's sword and his dream, the conquest of their ancient enemy, Persia. With the new king came new prospects for Keenus. Marrying the daughter of a general, he won command of his own regiment. Now he would help prepare the campaign against Persia. It was a land that could be as hostile as its army. Ingenious at adaptation, the Macedonians made boats from leather tents to ford rivers. They marched at night to avoid the desert sun. In the first year of the campaign, the newlywed Keenus was permitted to return home to see his wife. Gradually, the war took him ever farther from Macedonia. No obstacle halted Alexander's army. City after city fell. deserted and swelled the ranks of the victorious Macedonians. Then this unstoppable force came to an object that would not yield. The city of Tyre. Built half a mile off the coast of what would become Lebanon, Tyre was an island fortress with walls 150 feet high. Its resistance would test the Macedonians to the limit. Since the Persians would not come to him, Alexander would go to the Persians. His engineers embarked on an unprecedented feat. A causeway 220 feet wide extending to the fortress. Caenus's men cut trees on the slopes nearby and drove 2 rows of trunks into the channel. Between the rows, they piled huge stones. As the Macedonians advanced toward the island, the Tyrians poured down a constant hail of rocks, arrows, and hot sand. Armor might deflect arrows, but the sand worked its way through. It was so painful that men dove into the water for relief, only to drown under the weight of their armor. Alexander's engineers erected 2 towers as high as the walls of Tyre, covered in animal hides. From atop them, Caenus directed his troops to return fire and clear the battlements. Ever improvising, the Macedonians built weapons of artillery whose tension was provided by strips of twisted leather. The Tyrians sent a fire ship against the Macedonian towers and set them ablaze. Hundreds of men perished, but the siege went on. When they finally reached the walls, galleys with iron rams battered an opening. Caenus and his men stormed the city. The slaughter was savage. More than 8,000 Tyrians were executed. The rest, 30,000 people, were sold into slavery. Persia fell. Still, the Macedonians pushed ever eastward. Finally, in India, drenched by monsoons, 8 years and 3,000 miles from Macedonia, they could go no farther. They had had enough. One man plucked up the courage to speak. Caenus.
Sir, I do not propose to speak as an officer, but for the common soldier. My age, the repute which by your favor I enjoy amongst my comrades, and the unhesitating courage I have displayed in all danger and difficulties, give me the right to declare what I believe the soundest policy. Only a few from that great army are left, a small remnant, broken in health, their old vigor and determination gone. Every man of them longs to see his parents again, if they still survive, or his wife, or his children. All are yearning for the familiar earth of home, hoping pardonably enough to live to revisit it, no longer in poverty and obscurity, but famous and enriched